get
was
started
calling
with
over
our
there.
agenda work session, July 14th, 2016. We are attempting to set the agenda for the July 28th regular council meeting. Jen, we have a roll call, please.
Mayor Lambert,
Here?
Vice Mayor Griffin,
Here.
Councilmember Cagle,
Here.
Councilmember Manning,
Here.
Councilmember Stoll,
Here.
City Manager Miller,
Here.
City Attorney Walker.
All right, looks like potentially there will be no old business on the regular council agenda for July 28th. There are several items of new business that we will consider potentially. Item A will be a grant consent agenda regarding a recycling rebate and the TML Safety Partners. I understand just from some of the information that I received that our recycling rebate is more than doubled from what it has been in previous years. So
Yes, sir. Almost $4,000, so and usually we get about $1,300.
fantastic. That is very good, very good. That has just been, I know I've said it 100 times, but I'll say it one more time. That's just a great program. People love it. And I think Melvin told me a couple weeks ago that we have 2,700 cans, I think, out there, and we need more. People are still requesting.
And that's what we're going to use this money for, is to buy more cans.
Fantastic.
You remember where when we first started that, where people complained about doing it, said they would get nowhere. Well, as far as getting done, still ground, still fine.
It is.
I used to recycle cans in one garbage can, and I don't even think garbage can, when I got one on sack, rather than just recycle.
It is amazing when you start recycling, how much garbage you eliminate. So, it's a great program. All right, do we have any questions about either of those issues or items? All right, we'll move to item B, an unnumbered resolution, the Transportation Alternatives Program Grant Management Contract. Okay.
Amanda's handling the next three through her office, grants office.
Yes, sir, Mr. Miller. The Mayor and Council, the Transportation Alternatives Grant, we did receive. We applied for both Transportation Alternatives, which is the same as multimodal, just a different pot of money. It's going from Ringo Road, from Moore Road until Thomas Avenue, so connect to what we have right now. This money is only for construction, so the city will be on the hook for the development part of it, so the NEPA phase and the design phase, and any right-of-way acquisition that we may have. I think in that area we may not have a whole lot because of the bike lanes, so that's going to help us. But what I'm asking for in this grant management is to have Southeast Tennessee Development District help us manage this because of it being a large sum of money and the paperwork involved. I feel more comfortable with them handling that like they have with some of the other grants. Now, their fee will not be covered in the grant, so that's something that the city would have to incur if we choose to do that, which I'm recommending that we do.
Are they doing the other part of it?
Their management part of it, yes, sir. But the fee, their fee can be included in that grant because that grant has more funding than the transportation alternatives.
How much would the fee be?
It's about 6% of the total amount of the grant, which was around $31,000.
The grant's $31,000.
No, the grant's about 500 and, yeah, somewhere between 522, 530. And then, of course, we'll still have the NEPA phase, the design phase, and a new right-of-way phase, too.
Yeah, will really make a difference visually in that area. I think it's really awesome that now in consecutive years we've got grants that are going to help us to really begin that process of aesthetically changing
And not only that, we have money put in the transportation improvement program with the region, and trying to get funds, we have funds potentially to go from South Seminole all the way to the interstate up until I think the year 2045. So the more money I can save on that end by other grants, the better off we'll be.
Do we have any other questions? Okay, we'll move to item C, an unnumbered resolution for the Southeast Tennessee Development District Comprehensive Recreation Plan.
Yes, sir, Mayor and Council, this is for any grants that we go after. It helps to, especially for recreation grants, it does help to have a comprehensive recreation plan. We did have one, it was back in 2010, and of course, it was only for 5 years. Well, that lapsed back in 2015. And with several things changing, like the building of Walmart, where we were going to have a park, and some other smaller developments and upgrades or demolition of older playgrounds, it's time to update that plan. And that does help us if we want to get benchmarked in the future, which will help us also get larger funds of money. For example, when we go after, if we go after the LPRF grant in 2018, instead of just being available for $200,000, will be available for $500,000, which could actually potentially be $1 million grant, which is a 50-50. So,
The cost of this plan is about $7,500.
yes, sir, it is.
To do this comprehensive plan.
And they've done, Southeast Development District has done several of these in the past for other cities, and their work is phenomenal. So I would highly recommend using them for this.
Do we have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item D will be an unnumbered, at this point, resolution for approval of yearly street department materials bids. The bids would be opened on July 26th.
We will have a recommendation to the city council for the 28th meeting.
And
How much budget
I'm sorry? That's not only what's No. What you awarded, you need to start. Yes, sir.
it actually has a street, there are several streets that need work, repaving and whatnot, but went on Layfield the other day, which is just off of Broad Road. Boy, it is extremely rough. A couple of really bad dips in the road, and it's, and I would recommend we at least look at that one and possibly put that on the list as something we need to.
I would ask the council if you get concerns from complaints from residents or yourself, find out, just email me those, and I'll prepare a list of streets that we can look at and include it on our repaving program. So that's something we need to do every year. I don't want to get behind the 8 ball on road resurfacing, because once you get behind on that one, it takes an astronomical amount of money, appropriations to catch up.
Thank you, sir. We will do that if you have any roads that you run across it, or comments, questions from citizens about roads. All right, item E is discussion of the hours of construction and activities adjoining existing residential developments. We had a complaint about some construction that took place on the 4th of July. And a family was trying to have a barbecue in the backyard, and construction began, and apparently kicked up a lot of dust and just made it a pretty bad event. So I don't know if Kenny has some information for us about the potential of cleaning up some vagaries in the the existing ordinance?
Yeah, currently the ordinance just says 7 to 6. You can request special permission. It allows for emergencies. Some of the issue that we've had, and complaints, besides the 4th of July complaint, was the small development area next to Frolic Lake, because when they were doing that field work, it is literally in their bedroom window. So that was some of the issues. So I was able to talk to the individual developing that on multiple occasions. Luckily, that part is wrapped up. And the complaints that we're getting now, or that we were having, was just dust control from the other piece. And I believe we've pretty much gotten that under control, or at least a little better than it was. It does not allow or address any type of holiday work. It just says weekdays.
Yeah, that's where the problem is. The 4th of July was on a Monday, and of course, when I got the complaint, I got an email complaint on it. It just says 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. on weekdays. And I said, I'm sorry, but the ordinance, this is what the ordinance says, this is all I can enforce. But I did mention to her that we would be addressing this in the near future. We have another one coming up on Labor Day. That's going to be a Monday. So if you've got construction that's working out there on Monday, Labor Day, you can't enforce this. So that's some of the vagueness that's in the ordinance now. I just brought it up. The mayor and I discussed it. He decided to put it on discussion. Put this on to get your feeling on what, where you want to go with this, make it more clear, more specific.
I know the last time there was a discussion here that it says weekdays. Okay, the first phone call I get after that, Saturday morning.
That's the other one.
Saturday morning's on the weekend. That wasn't discussed, it's not discussed in the ordinance as it is now. And also, I think you, Mr. Barrett, said at the last discussion that there would be no Sunday work if we could get that put in there. You know, it's hard to eliminate Saturday from these construction workers, especially if they've got contracting needs. And holidays too, you know, if they've got contracting needs, we just can't cut out every, if it's a rainy season, you know, it's like Bass Pro down here, we can't cut out every day. And I agree that they need to kind of control the dust, stuff like that, but then, we need to get more specific, or we're gonna allow Saturday work.
Even if we put, I mean, just a thought, but even if we put some restriction on it, we can always, you know, because it may not be that they need to do it all the time. You know, if it's not a rainy season or they don't have a deadline. You know, meeting a deadline, you know, we can clarify that a little more to kind of be in an emergency situation that they need to work on that day with a written request. That way it's not happening by just everybody, you know, somebody wanting to build a deck on the 4th of July, for instance.
Well, the other part of it too is not all construction activities occur abutting residential districts. So you could have construction that occur in an area like the Bass Pro Shop. You have no residential area around there that would hear that.
But we have a little problem there.
Well, just one side, yeah, on the south side of the development.
Okay, well, I'll take it back then.
But the contractors took care of that.
Yeah.
They went in there and opened motel rooms wherever they wanted, as long as they could
Okay,
continue
I see what
working.
you're saying. Okay, okay. But I mean, you do have that in some instances.
Absolutely.
Can you not, Joel? If they do, we got to do that. We'll have a water truck kind of keep it sprinkled out, keep the dust out.
Absolutely. Now, on that aspect of it, that's actually a requirement, and that's what we've worked with the development on Farley Road about.
The Air Pollution Control Bureau actually polices the dust issue. So there's something already in place to address dust.
They were just not, what was happening is when they would call him, and if he didn't make it out, then they would call us, and it was kind of getting missed, but I spoke to the gentleman on the phone on multiple occasions, and he seemed extremely happy with the progress that we're making, so.
Well, I'd say, you know, there's a lot that's going to be going on in these streets, and a lot of it's going to be close to neighborhoods, so it's, you know, it's a kind of growing pain for we're having. I know when they were working on the Bass Pro project, you know, we had some rains, they were working on weekends late, a lot of times just trying to get their deadline covered up. So I'm kind of like Jackie, it's kind of hard to, if you start cutting out, you you know, every time there's a holiday, cut off Saturdays, they're gonna have a 4-day work week, you know. So, it's gonna be kind of hard for a lot of these construction people, get what they gotta get done. Maybe we, on the holiday, maybe not start at 6 o'clock in the morning, you know, move it to, you know, decent hour, people at least got up.
I think,
I know Mayor, he lives right there, people out there in the facilities.
you know, if trucks start rolling at 6:45 in the morning on a Sunday morning, and it rattles your windows and it shakes the pictures on the wall, you're gonna be pretty irritated. And so it was bad at my house. I can't imagine what it was like at my neighbor's house. Where the bedroom window is right there at the construction site.
You do think about it too, Mayor.
I see Sunday's not working on Sunday. You know, after 6 days.
And by holidays, I mean, you know, if you don't prohibit it, theoretically, they can get out there on Thanksgiving Day or Christmas Day or whatever they wanted to. If they can round up enough workers to get out there and work. And I sure would not want construction going on, rattling the windows on Christmas Day. I mean, so I think, it sounds like I'm gonna be in favor of a little stricter guidelines than what some of you will, but that's okay, you know, whatever we work out is what we work out.
Well, the thing I'm looking at is, Board of Regents is up here, guess what? Residential is right in our back door,
Right.
so.
And
We have to control the whole the Board of Regents district along these hours and the limitations we put on. So that it's liable to make people go somewhere else to want to build.
well, I think you've got to strike a balance, though.
Yeah.
I think you can't just completely ignore the residents in favor of construction, and you can't go the other way. You can't make it so restrictive that the builders, developers want to go somewhere else.
And that's what we've expressed, when we get the phone calls and then we make the contact with the developers, we just ask them to be good neighbors, understand, we know this is a financial issue for you guys, and you're moving forward, and you're trying to get done as soon as possible, but at the same time, citizens have they vested an interest also when they're, you know, trying to live somewhat peacefully. Now, every one of them's happy about the developments, they're not complaining about that, they're just, some of the issues that, like, down the road for you was happening before ours, so it was actually unlawful for that to take place in the beginning.
I think our attorney's gonna say something.
Well, just to say, we need to be aware of equal protection arguments as well, that, for example, why that some businesses can operate on Saturday and construction businesses cannot. So, we need to make sure that we have some justifiable circumstances to limit somebody's right to operate their business. Fashion something.
Would that also be on Sunday?
Typically, Sunday would be an exception, Saturday, not as much.
Would you all like to just brainstorm and send some ideas to Hal and myself, and we can put that on paper and bring it back to you guys?
Have you taken a look to see what the city of Chattanooga or Hamilton County?
I haven't, this has just really been a huge topic the last 2 weeks. And then died down after that he finished.
Can you guys just look at the area, other municipalities?
I can basically say that of the 8 or so cities I've been involved with, we allowed work between usually 7 in the morning to start and cut it off at 10 o'clock at night. So 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Monday through Saturday. Saturday, 11 work. Sunday was a later starting date. And then holidays were out. No other holidays. What I'm saying is, Columbus Day is half the people celebrate, half the people don't. When you talk about the holidays, you talk about Christmas. 5 major, right. The 5 major holidays, they fall during the week. We didn't allow them. That's been normal for the cities I've worked in.
Can staff take a look at like the city of Collegedale, Signal Mountain, Red Bank, and just give council a summary
Of what everybody's doing.
of what each city's doing?
Okay.
And that way, we're not the redheaded stepchild out here doing something that that these other municipalities are doing, so.
I will provide that information at the next meeting.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, item F, discussion of the sign ordinance. We had talked about this, I think, at the last meeting, about adding it to the workshop agenda, just to begin the conversation about kind of setting the ground rules for how that's going to go this fall. I think last election cycle, there was really quite a bit of confusion about when signs could be placed. Was it a certain number of days ahead of early voting? Was it a certain number of days ahead of the actual election day? And it was kind of left to the city manager to police that. And I don't think that's a very good situation to put the city manager in.
What is the ordinance on that? I forgot.
It's 60 days, I think.
It says, I have it here, no political signs shall be posted more than 60 days in advance of the election, which it reflects, and then the signs have to be removed within 15 days after the election.
Like the mayor said, 60 days before
Early.
early election,
Early vote.
early voting,
It
or
just says in advance of election to which it refers.
I know we,
the early election is about, like, 2 weeks prior to the.
Yeah.
Right.
This one coming up.
I know on the early vote, we had set early voting on.
And that's the problem with construction of election. Some would say that election, that you're not elected until the day that the votes are counted. Others would say that, yeah, I voted, so the election, first day of the early vote. So that's something that came up last time, and as I recall,
I keep it, I'm thinking, if you've got early election, a lot of people vote in, you need to have your signs out.
You gotta have them out. You don't, you don't vote.
And I don't, I personally don't have a problem with that. We just need to set the ground rules.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just changing of a few words.
Well, let me ask you this too, this was brought up too, in the past, does that mean political signs can go up anywhere, or can a resident put a sign up anytime he wants to, it's probably, that's what I run into that before. Saying, hey, I own my property, I do what I want.
Property owners' rights.
It's our rights to do what we want. So we agree on.
Is this just gonna be from right of ways, main roads?
I would
I would ask the city attorney.
Yeah, the First Amendment allows you to go out and say, I can go out today and put a sign in my yard. Have some requirement like this that would say, go from something to make freedom of speech. Keep it right. I think what we're talking about is on public right of ways and things like that. I think that's what we're first.
One problem we got with that, just like our people who's running in these streets, other people come in, put up signs anytime they want to, right now, because we got no control. But I talked to the election commission over here.
Well, if it's in East Ridge, we do have control over it. Even if it's, Congress or whatever,
I think they've been lax on, somebody needs to become a sign that's responsible for the signs. You have somebody to call if there's a problem, and then also, if they don't pick them up, you got somebody, if there's a sign not put up, if somebody had to put signs up and they haven't got the proper paperwork, the codes will start picking them up.
Now, we could attempt to just.
We had that in place, but.
We can attempt to make this applicable to all signs, from private property to public property. In fact, some subdivisions have restrictive covenants in there that say you can't put a for sale sign. We could try that, to probably make it a lawsuit under the freedom of speech. Perhaps the council can decide.
I think what Larry's getting at is something, a responsible party. Have to come in, fill out a signed document
Well, we already have
as
that.
a
Yeah, we already got
responsible,
that.
as a responsible party.
we are enforcing that, right?
We have it, we just ain't enforced it.
As soon as somebody in code sees it with a sign, they need to look and see when that time when somebody's filled out something they haven't. And I think instead of jerking signs, we will have to buy a cop, so I guess you will have to. You don't have to pick anything up, and then somebody will say, hey, on the sign,
if I'm wrong, but don't the election commission, I go there to pick up my papers that day. Now, when I call that day, when I pick them up, they give me the ordinance in the city of East Creek. Now, that's just not for the city election, that's for the county, the state, presidential, all that. Therefore, actually, kind of clears up whenever our presidential and our local elections kind of run together, because primaries carry over into, and some of those signs don't have them.
Right. Yeah, I think that creates a kind of a false conception in some people's minds, because there's a provision in the ordinance that says if you win the primary, you can leave the signs up. And so you may see a sign for 5 months because they were up 60 days ahead of the primary, and then from the primary to the general. And so it confuses people. I don't have a problem with that either. It's just, it is what it is. It does confuse people. I just want everybody to know the ground rules before we get into the middle of it.
Kind of attorney said too, they said, it's just getting a lawsuit through the
Sure.
streets.
Sure.
And our decision is 60 days prior to early election, or 60 days prior to main election.
Prior to the election day.
And to clarify that this ordinance pertains to signs placed on public right of way.
We allow that.
I'm sorry.
We allow that.
If it's, right, if it's before,
Criteria.
people could potentially put a sign in their yard 90 days ahead of the election if it's in their yard.
They
Just
can
not,
do that anytime they want, because it's a freedom of speech act.
exactly, but,
I don't think you want signs very
right. Again, I would just like to see language that clarifies all of that, spells it out. Because sure as the world, somebody's gonna come in and say, well, I saw Joe Smith's sign over here on Tombrus, and, why can't I put my signs out? Well, that's in a private residence, it's not it's not out on public land.
I think there's issues about, on city grounds, but I think that's all that, kind of left up to the city manager too, in his spot.
We don't, we don't.
I think that needs to be spelled
Uh,
out.
I know I've always been told at the election commission, when it comes to putting up signs, that they had authority. So I've always been told.
They don't have control over our ordinance here. We create the ordinance and they distribute it to the candidates.
Nor do they enforce it.
Right, and they don't enforce it, correct?
So if we pass something here next week or the next council meeting, and it's going to actually be for the election for 2 years.
Well,
It's going to be hard to enforce that thing for 60 days prior to, by the time we get it to pass.
But we can construe the 60 days, because that have to be effective immediately. You don't have to say 60 days prior to the first day of early voting. You can say that right now, that's how we enforce it. And if you change the law in the meantime, time's already run. But with the 60 days, I think what you're doing is just construing what's already there, not changing.
I think it ought to be, for early, 60 days for early election. Give them 60 days.
Got a consensus?
sounds like a consensus, yes.
Okay. It's up to me, I say no. So, we should just look like the next, the ordinance.
Well, I understand where you're coming from, but here's another problem. Right over there at the community center, there's that center is 3 voting
I know,
precincts.
I know.
And
Election
So-
commission reads it.
I hear what you're saying. Other cities that we've had the same issue with, we've allowed the signs out there during election day.
Yes.
Prior to election,
Yes.
no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
Election
right.
day, as a precinct, yes, you can't
Yes.
stop that, because the precinct is open, people want to have their signs out there, and that literature, that would be, I would never have a problem with that. But signs proliferating in city properties, prior to that day, is something that I've constantly gotten complaints about.
I think most people would, you know, that night before.
Yeah, we always get that day or night before.
I'm fine with that, as long as we're fair and equal to all parties. That's the key.
Wasn't there a problem last time, the last election, someone jumped the gun or something set up
Yeah.
a day or two in advance, wasn't that?
Tents. But that, I think.
It wasn't signs for the signs as well?
Just-
No, just 10.
I guess it's so limited
What
space.
if it didn't work? I wouldn't want to skip your hurdles. I ain't just heard people start talking, so you better get a break your skin. So they got to spell right back, come figure out this spot, and clear it up. So,
Which we've always allowed that.
What's got along, we used to be forward, it got personal.
you know, we've got a bunch of candidates running.
Well, yeah,
I
I
know.
know, it's the.
This November, there's gonna be problem with
Have a bunch of.
You're right.
yeah, so this corner area is gonna be decorated red, white, blue, green, yellow.
Hey, you know what, this sounds like a revenue generating issue, you know? Let's sell 10 by 10 spots. And the two corners are the most expensive to rent.
I'm sure TML would
But when our open air market, ordinance take care of that where we could.
I hope so.
All right. That's all we have on the work session agenda. Mr. Manning, do you have anything in addition?
One thing I've got to say right now, as a matter of fact, I'd like to send a donuts out to Jack Sharp's family in White Passageway. And I didn't know anything about it, so I tried to send it on the computer today. Just knew the family in prior, they buried her. And National Cemetery, was it yesterday, Shirley? I think it was yesterday. And it was that family. Prior.
Will do. Mr. Sue? Mr. Gable?
No, sir, I don't have.
Mr. Gray?
Nothing right now.
Don't have anything either, so we will adjourn the work session and